Hi there, my name is Kira and today I'm going to show you how to make these adorable little crochet succulents. These patterns are so fun and I cannot wait to share them with you. If you're a beginner, check out the videos I have linked below with tutorials for a magic ring and other basic stitches that will be used in this pattern. Let's go ahead and get started. For yarn today, I will be using Big Twist Posh in the color Peach, Big Twist Baby Bear in the color Brown Sugar, Big Twist Baby Bear in the color Oyster Mushroom, Big Twist Baby Bear in the color Sage. This dark green color here is Loops and Threads Chenille yarn in the color Agave, and Loops and Threads acrylic yarn in the color Green. For supplies, you'll need a pair of scissors, a 5mm crochet hook, a stitch marker and an embroidery needle, and some polyfill stuffing. So to get started on the flower pot, you want to start by making 8 single crochet into a magic ring. For the next round, I'm going to make 8 increase stitches, and an increase stitch is just 2 single crochet into the same stitch. For the next round, I'm going to make 1 single crochet and then an increase stitch, and I'm going to repeat that 8 times to go all the way around. So 1 single crochet and then an increase stitch, and then I'm going to do that 7 more times. For the next round, I'm going to make 3 single crochet and then an increase stitch and repeat that 6 times to go all the way around. So 1, 2, and 3 single crochet and then an increase stitch. And then I'm going to do that 5 more times. For the next round, I'm going to make 4 single crochet and then an increase stitch and repeat that 6 times to go all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then an increase stitch. And then I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. And then the next 8 rounds are just going to be 8 rounds of 36 single crochet round. So I'm going to do the first one with you. I'm just going to do 36 single crochet around. Okay, so that was one round of 36 single crochet, and now I'm going to do 7 more of those. So I'm going to go ahead and do these rounds off camera, but once I have that finished, I'll come back and show you what to do next. And again, you're going to do 8 total rounds of 36 single crochet. I have 7 more to do, so I'll be right back once I have those done. Okay, so I just finished my 8 rounds of single crochet around, and here's what it's looking like. And for this next round, we're going to do 36 single crochet around, but you want to do them only in the front loops. So I'm just going to take my hook and show you. I'm only going through the front loop versus the whole stitch, both of these loops here. So only going into that front loop, I'm going to make 36 single crochet around. In the front loops only. And if you want to, you can mark the back loops of these stitches because we are going to use them later on. So feel free to place a stitch marker in a few of the loops just so you can find them later on when we need them. And then for the next 3 rounds, we're again just going to do 36 single crochet around, and you can go through the front and back loops. You don't need to do just the front loops. So I'm going to go ahead and do these rounds real quick off camera, but again, it's just 3 rounds of 36 single crochet around. So I just finished my 3 rounds of 36 single crochet, and now I'm going to go ahead and tie off my yarn. And then I'm just going to fold the top part of this down here around the pot to make like the little lip of the pot, and it should fold pretty nicely right where we did our single crochet in the front loops only. And then just real quick, I'm going to tuck this tail onto the inside of the pot so that it's hidden. So here is my little pot, and then we're gonna make a little bit of dirt in the pot, and this will be the same for all the plants. So the next thing you want to do is grab whatever color yarn you want your dirt to be, and then make a slip knot on your hook. And I'm going to just insert this into one of my back loops. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to start at this one here. So you can kind of tell here, right here is where my back loops are from the previous round when we, and if you marked them, that's fine too. So you're going to go into one of your back loops and just make 1 single crochet. And we are going to do 1 single crochet and then a decrease stitch all the way around. So I did 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to take 2 of my back loops onto my hook and make a decrease stitch. This might be a little bit tricky, but you'll get the hang of it the more you go around. So there's a decrease, and then again I'm going to do another single crochet and then another decrease, all into these back loops that we left from before. And this is going to be like our dirt. So I'm just going to do one single crochet and then a decrease stitch all the way around. And then for the next round here, I'm just going to do 24 single crochet around. So make sure your first stitch is where we originally started the last round. And I'm just going to do 24 single crochet. So there's 1, then for this next round, we're going to do 12 decrease stitches. So you're just going to decrease all the way around. And then after your 12 decrease stitches, you can go ahead and just tie off this yarn. And then I'm just going to tuck this tail onto the inside here. And now's a good time to go ahead and add some stuffing. So here is my first pot all nice and stuffed, and then I have a couple more here, and again I'm going to show you how to make 3 separate succulents. So the first thing you want to do to make our string of pearls is make a slip knot on your hook using the green yarn that you want to use for the plant. And then I'm just going to insert this anywhere into these 12 stitches that we have around kind of like the dirt part of the pot, and make a single crochet to anchor that in. And then I'm going to make 5 chain stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to make our first pearl. So to make a pearl, this yarn is not very easy to see with, but I'll try to talk you through it the best that I can. So the second stitch for my hook is this one right here, because there's 1 and 2. And what I'm going to do is yarn over my hook, and then I'm going to go into that second stitch from my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull a loop up, yarn over again, and then going directly back into that same chain stitch, I'm going to pull up another loop. So now you should have 4 loops on your hook, and I'm going to yarn over and again go back into that same chain stitch, pull up another loop. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then to finish this off, I'm gonna go, this is again really hard to see, this right here is the stitch that I was just working in. I'm gonna go in the one next to it and just make a slip stitch. Just like that. So there's one of my pearls. So then I'm gonna chain 8 more. And I'm gonna do this again. So yarn over my hook, and then in the second stitch for my hook, which is this one right here, because there's one here, and this is the second one, I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I now have 3 loops on my hook. And then again, yarn over, and then going back into that same chain stitch, yarn over again and pull up a loop. And now there's 5 loops on my hook. And then one more time, I'm gonna yarn over, go back into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. And I now have 7 loops on my hook. And then I'm gonna yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then to finish that off, I'm just gonna go into the next chain stitch, not the one we were just working on, and make a slip stitch, and then pull that nice and tight. And this is how I'm gonna do my string of pearls. So feel free to do as many of these as you want and make them as long as you want. I'm gonna make mine all different lengths. So this one has 2 pearls on it, but the next one might have 3. And you also want to make the chains different in between each one. So you could do either 6 or 8 chains in between each of these pearls. And then I'm just gonna tie off this yarn at the end, and then you'll need to weave in the ends of your yarn as well. This yarn is shedding. So you'll need to weave in these ends, and I'll show you how to do that on a different one since I'm having so much trouble with this one. And then with this extra tail here, I'm just gonna tuck that in. So this is one of our strings, and we're gonna make 12. We're gonna do this in every single one of these 12 single crochet that are left in this loop. And I just wanted to show you what I'm doing really quick with some yarn that's a little bit easier to see with, because I know that green yarn is not easy to see. Here I can see this is the first and then second stitch for my hook right here. So this is the stitch I'm going to go into in a second. I'm going to yarn over, go into that second stitch from my hook, pull up, yarn over and pull up a loop. So now I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and go into that same chain stitch, yarn over and pull up another loop. So now there's 5 loops on my hook. And then one more time, I'm going to yarn over and go back into that same chain stitch and yarn over and pull up another loop. So now I have 7 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 7 loops. And then this here is the stitch that we just went into. So I'm going to go into the next chain stitch, and make a slip stitch. There we go. Hopefully that was a little bit easier to see. So I'll show you one more time. I'm gonna make a slip knot on my hook and insert it into my next stitch next to the one that we just completed, and then make a single crochet. And then this time, instead of chaining, I think 5 before, I'm gonna chain 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then in the second stitch from my hook, I'm gonna yarn over and insert my hook into that second chain stitch from my hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook and go back into that same chain stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over my hook and one more time, go back into that same chain stitch and yarn over to pull up another loop. And then when you have 7 loops on your hook, you're gonna yarn over and pull through all 7 of the loops. Maybe. And then to finish that off, I'm just gonna make a slip stitch in the next chain stitch. And then for this one, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. You can really do any amounts of chains in between them. I'm gonna do 6 this time. So there's 6. I'm gonna make another one. So I'm just gonna continue to repeat this over and over again until I've done all 12. Okay, so I just finished doing all 12 of my little strings of pearls. And as you can see, they're all a little bit different. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. Some of them have 4 pearls, some of them only have 3, some only have 2. So this is kind of what mine is looking like here. And I did want to show you real quick how to weave in the ends that you have on the ends of the pearls. So I just took mine and threaded it onto my embroidery needle and then weaved it in and out of a few stitches, just like that, but you don't want to pull it too tight because it will kind of scrunch up the chain. And then once you've gone through a few stitches, I'm just going to tie off that yarn, and again making sure not to do that. And then once you have it tied off, you can just cut the extra off the end. The last thing we're going to do is close up this gap here, and to do that I just have a scrap piece of my green yarn that I'm going to thread onto my embroidery needle. And then you can see where I did each of these single crochet to attach my yarn onto the dirt, I guess. I'm just gonna take this and weave it in and out of these 12 stitches here. So I just went under this one. I'm gonna skip over this one and go under the next one. And then I'm going to skip over the next one and go underneath the next stitch. Skip this one and go under the next one. And then one more time, skip one and go underneath the next one. And then once I've gone all the way around, I'm just going to tie these 2 ends together really tight, and that's going to close up that gap. just like that. And then I'm going to double knot it just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then you can go ahead and just tuck these ends into the flower pot. And then once your ends are tucked in, you're all finished. So if you want, you can position these all to one side to make it look like, you know, they're kind of overgrowing down the side of the pot. You can spread them out, really just however you want, but I think this is absolutely adorable. So the first thing you want to do is just make a slip knot on your hook. And then chain 21. Next, I'm just gonna go starting in the second stitch from my hook, and I'm gonna make 20 single crochet across my chain. Okay, so there's 20. And then I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work over. And then starting in this third stitch from my hook, I'm going to make 3 double crochet all into the same stitch. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and then in the next stitch I'm just going to make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to do this 2 more times. So in the next stitch I'm going to make 3 double crochet into 1 stitch, so there's 1, and then back into the same stitch, there's 2, and then 1 more time in the same stitch, there's 3, and then in the next stitch I'm just going to make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to do it 1 more time, so 3 double crochet in 1, and then a slip stitch in the next stitch, and then we're going to make some smaller petals than this, so I'm going to do 3 half double crochet in 1 in my next stitch here, so there's 1, 2, and 3 half double crochet all into the same stitch, and then I'm going to make another slip stitch in my next stitch, and then I'm going to do that 2 more times, so 3 half double crochet in 1, and then another slip stitch, and then one more time, 3 half double crochet in one, and then a slip stitch in the next stitch. And then we're gonna do even smaller now. So we're gonna do 4 of these little tiny pickles. I'm gonna do 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. So there's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and 3 single crochet, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. And then you want to do that 3 more times. So 3 single crochet in one, and then a slip stitch in the next stitch, and then again 3 single crochet in one stitch, a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then one more time, 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, and then finish off the row with another slip stitch. And you can go ahead and tie off your yarn. And then the next thing you're gonna do is you wanna leave a tail on this end over here. And we're gonna kind of roll this up and sew it into place as we roll it up. So I'm gonna take this end here and just kind of roll it like this. We're gonna make wrap it around itself like this. So I'm just gonna start at this end with my embroidery needle on the tail, and then fold it up a little bit and make a stitch through there so that that stays nice and tight. Just like that. And then I'm just gonna keep doing that. So I'm gonna continue to kind of wrap this up, and it doesn't need to be super tight or anything. And then make a stitch through there while I wrap it up to hold it in place. And I'm just making these stitches through this bottom row that we just did single crochet on. And then one more time, I'm just gonna make another stitch through the end of this here. And then when you get to the end and it's all rolled up, I'm just gonna make one more little connection stitch here on the end of this piece to the side of that. And then here you go. So you can go ahead and make a knot to tie this off, but you do want to leave the rest of it because we're going to use it to sew it onto our flower pot. So I'm just going to tie off my yarn there. Ignore the green right here, I just ran out of yarn and that part will be covered up. So I'm just going to take my tail that I have on the bottom of this is from my slip knot, and just tuck it in to my flower pot. And then I'm going to hold this where I want it, and I still have this tail here on my embroidery needle, and I'm just going to use this to sew the plant into the flower pot. So I'm just going to grab a stitch from the flower pot, and then grab a stitch from the plant or the succulent and pull it tight, and then grab another stitch from my flower pot and another stitch from the succulent. And pull it tight, and I'm just going to do this all the way around my succulent until it's all the way sewn on. And then once you've gone all the way around, you can go ahead and just tie off the yarn and weave in the ends. And then you have this little guy all completed. So the first thing you're gonna do is make a slip knot on your hook. And I'm just gonna show you this with medium weight yarn because it's easier to see, but I did do my leaves with a plush yarn. And then I'm gonna chain 9. And then what I'm gonna do here is go into the second stitch from my hook, so this one right here. And I'm gonna pull up a loop. And then I'm gonna go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. And I'm gonna do this all the way down, so you should do it 8 times. So that was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then last one, 8. So I have, I think, 9 loops on my hook now. And then what I'm gonna do here is yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And then yarn over and pull through 2 more loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 more loops. And I'm going to continue this until I've gotten rid of all the loops on my hook except for 1. Okay. So there's 1/2 of the leaf, and then you're gonna chain 1 and flip over here. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing going down the other side of this chain. So I'm gonna insert my hook into the first one, pull up a loop, and then I'm gonna go into the second stitch here and pull up a loop. And then there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then again, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And then yarn over and pull through another 2 loops. And do this until you've gone through all the loops that are on your hook. And then at the top, you can just go ahead and tie off the yarn, and this is one of the leaves. So I made 8 of these for my plant using my plush yarn. So let me grab those. And then so here is what one of my leaves looks like, and I have 8 of these. And using this medium weight yarn that is the same color, you could use the plush yarn if you wanted, but I feel like this is going to be a little bit easier for you guys to see. I'm going to make a slip knot on my hook, And I just have my little flower pot here, and I'm gonna insert this, it doesn't matter where, at any of these 12 stitches that I have around my pot. And then so there's one single crochet, and every other single crochet we're gonna add one of our leaves on. So to do that, I'm just gonna put my hook through one of my leaves at the bottom, and then into the next stitch on the little flower pot, and make one single crochet through both pieces. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then in the next stitch, I'm just gonna make one single crochet. And then I'm gonna grab another leaf. And same thing, go through both the leaf and the next stitch of my flower pot, and then make a single crochet. And then in the next stitch, I'm just gonna make a single crochet. And I'm going to do this until I have 6 of my petals attached, or my leaves attached. Every other stitch I will attach another leaf. So now I have 6 of my leaves attached, and I know it looks a little bit crazy. I'm going to try to tuck some of these ends in so you can see better. And then if you want, you could do another row of petals the same way, or really you can do whatever you'd like here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip a stitch and go into the next stitch and make one single crochet, and then again skip a stitch, go into the next, but through this next stitch I'm going to attach another leaf. So skip a stitch, and then into the next stitch I'm attaching another leaf, and I know this can be tricky, it's hard to see, just do your best. And then I'm going to skip another stitch and go into the next one and make a single crochet. So we're kind of closing up this gap here and adding our last couple of leaves, and then make sure to keep tucking your tails into the inside as you go. So I'm just going to keep tucking these in so that they're easier to deal with later. Okay, and then same thing, I'm gonna skip this stitch and go into the next one and crochet another leaf onto there. So I've got my hook through my leaf, I'm gonna skip another stitch and go into this next one. And make a single crochet. Skip a stitch and then go into the next one and make one more single crochet before I tie off the yarn. And then I'm just gonna tuck this final tail into my hole here. And then I'm gonna take this tail with my medium weight yarn and thread this onto my embroidery needle. And then I'm gonna go through the front loops of each of those stitches that I just did. Even though they're kind of on top of each other. Just weaving in and out of the front loops. And then I'm just going to pull that tight to close it, and then just stick this yarn down in to hide the tail. So here's how it looks kind of from the side. Absolutely adorable. And then the last thing you want to do here is weave in all of these little tails. So to do that, I'm just going to thread them onto my embroidery needle and then just kind of weave in and out down the leaf until I get towards the bottom, and then I will just cut off the excess yarn. Another thing I wanted to show you is if you take this tail here while you're weaving it in, and if you just weave it in and out of the stitches, closer to the bottom, and then pull it tight a little bit, it will kind of curve those leaves upwards. So feel free to do that if you want your leaves to stick up a little bit more, like that. And then just make sure that you tie another knot with the tail after you've done that so that it stays in place before you cut it off. And if you want, you can also just weave them into the inside of the pot. That's going to help them stick up even more.
I hope you loved making these sweet little succulents as much as I did. If you do make them, I would absolutely love to see how they come out, and you can tag me on Instagram at Crochet with Kira. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.